For more on this, we'd like to bring in John Snyder. He is an attorney and legal analyst. John, thanks for joining us. Now, I want to focus on what the president says about Robert Mueller, considering that him and Comey were indeed friends. They did work together. Is it fair that he is concerned he could be biased?
Well, I think it's always a problem when an investigator either has bias or has the appearance of bias. Now, this is a very, very serious set of charges that have been brought against the president, and the American people need to be able to be confident that whatever the outcome is, that it's based on the evidence and not based on personal affections.
Now, from a legal perspective, the special counsel statute specifically prohibits Mueller from serving if he has, quote, a personal relationship with any person substantially involved in the investigation or prosecution. The language is mandatory that he shall disqualify himself. Now, Comey is, of course, substantially involved in this case. Should Mueller, being the honorable man that he is, recuse himself?
Well, I don't see what advantage or what Mueller has to gain by going forward with this, because no matter what he does, there's always going to be the question, did he soft pedal for his friend James Comey, or did he go harder on Donald Trump?
But he has a lot of credibility in Washington. You think that if no matter what the results are, there will be some questioning of Mueller's honor here?
Well, the reason that Mr. Mueller has so much credibility is because over his career he's been scrupulous in ethical rules. And I think in this case he needs to be equally scrupulous.
Let's talk about the health care. Is it dead on arrival?
It sure seems to be. And one of the issues, as I see it, is the Republicans have failed to put forward a clear vision of what health care would look like under their plan.
So what happens next? How do you see this playing out?
Well, if they cannot get it through, then it seems likely that they're going to go for tax reform and hopefully take up health care later in the year.
Well, I think a lot of people would say, forget health care, move on to tax reform. Do you think that there would be more support for that?
I think there will be tremendous support for tax reform, particularly in the business community and the small business community.
I meant within the House and the Senate. Now, because the Democrats, so far their agenda seems to be obstructionist. Do you see Democrats cooperating on any kind of tax reform?
Not until they get the message from voters that voters want to see problems solved as opposed to this constant strife.
I want to talk about the shooting of Scalise, because a Nebraska Democratic Party official said that he was glad that House Majority Whip Steve Scalise got shot last week. That man has now been removed. Phil Montag. We had a CBS anchor, Scott Pelley, on his final show saying that perhaps the Scalise shooting was self-inflicted. Johnny Depp today calling for the president to be assassinated and then apologizing for those comments. We have the New York Times sponsoring the Shakespeare in the Park play where the president gets stabbed or someone looking like the president. The Kathy Griffin situation, holding a severed head. What is going on here, John? Is this a normalization of violence against Republicans?
In my entire lifetime, I have never seen politics so fraught and so just bitter. And I hope that we can find a way to get back to some sort of normal politics.
There's certainly a lot of anger from both sides here. It seems to be impacting the Democrats in terms of funding. They raised $4.3 million in May, the lowest in 14 years. The GOP hit a record very quickly. What do you think this signals?
Well, if you look at the Georgia election we just had, where they poured tens of millions of dollars into a race and got nothing from it, if I were a Democratic Party donor, I would wonder, what am I getting for my money?
John Snyder, thank you so much for joining us.